Hello everyone and welcome. This is Christine with Powder Crafts and today I'm here with a design team project for Scrapping for Less. Today I will be making an all occasion card using this stamp set from Doodlebug. It is called Oh Boy. I'm going to be using this image here with the little boy on the swing on the branch. And I'm also going to be using some pattern paper from this 6x6 paper pad from Scrapping for Less called Ice Cream Celebration. So I have already chosen the pattern papers I'm going to be using, so I've got those set and ready to go. But first we are going to go ahead and stamp out our image. So I'm just grabbing a acrylic block and some ink, and we'll go ahead and stamp this out. I will be using Copic markers to color this image in today. So I'm using my Gina K Designs black amalgam ink. This is a nice Copic friendly ink, but you do need to give it a minute or so to dry before you color over it. So this image has small areas, and when the areas are small like this, I don't tend to do a lot of shading. So what I do is kind of lay down my light color and I'm just going over with a dark color where I think some shadows would be. And for this branch, I also use that same dark color to kind of add a little bit of texture to that tree to kind of make it look a little bit more like a tree branch. So for the tree branch and the C, I used the E39 and the E29. For the rope, I'm just using one color. It'll be this E34. Now, this is where I decide, hey, I gotta add my kind of sky area to the back of this. I'm not trimming him out, not fussy cutting, not using my scan and cut. I am using him as is, so I'm gonna wanna have some sort of background. So I'm using this BG10 to kind of add the sky behind him, just a little light blue. It will dry lighter than what you're seeing on the screen here. But I do find I kind of have to do this sort of first because sometimes I will touch the darker colors that I'm coloring with the tip of that light blue one, and it will drag it across and I'll end up with a smear. And so to avoid that, I am just going to go ahead and do this. That's why I went ahead and did that first. For his hair, I used a Y31 and Y11 and W0. It ended up being really bright, so I tried to bring a colorless blender in to try to pull away some of that color. We'll see how well that works after this all dries. The hair and the skin and his shirt are the only ones where I'm kind of pulling in 2 to 3 markers and actually doing some shading. These areas are definitely big enough where I feel comfortable enough to do shading in these areas. The thing with the small areas like the rope or the branch or the C or even his pants is that, and it could be my paper, it just could be the way that I color, but I tend to get a lot of bleeding when I do that, and then it comes out of the lines and I end up having to color it again anyway. So that's why I don't necessarily do a lot of shading when it's small images. So for his little boots, I'm just using the C5 marker there, and then I'm going to be pulling in three different greens to add some grass for the ground underneath him. When I do this, I basically just kind of squiggle a bunch of lines, like flick a bunch of lines on here with the different colors, make a little bit of a V here and there, and I always like the effect. I like the way it comes out. I wouldn't use less than 3 different greens, but you could definitely use a couple more if you wanted to. I always find 3 is a good combination, a light, a medium, and a dark green. And for the flowers, the leaves, and the hearts, I just am using just one single color. So once I'm done coloring, I go ahead and grab my square dies, and I'm going to trim out my image and a mat, which I'm using the pink paper found in the paper pad. I did not make the ground wide enough, so I'm just kind of going back in with those 3 different greens again and just finishing up on both those sides so that that grass goes across that whole bottom. This Sentiment Hello can be found in that stamp set, and I just use the same ink that I stamped the image with to stamp the sentiment. Now there is a little bit of a line on this paper from my die, so I decided I was going to cover it up with a white gel pen. I did test it out on a scrap piece first because this paper tends to have a little bit of a glossy finish, so I just wanted to make sure my gel pen would actually work and stay on this paper, and it did, and I'm very happy with the way it came out. Now when I was trimming down my pattern paper here, I was thinking that this was going to be a top folding portrait size card, but my image scene ended up being bigger than I thought, so we flipped it over to a landscape card. So because of that, the brown polka dot paper and the pink polka dot paper I cut ended up being too short. So instead of cutting a new piece, I just cut them all in half, and we'll put that image above and no one will know any different. So I wanted to use the pink to just kind of break up between the brown polka dot and the white polka dot. So I just cut that in half, and then I cut it in half and just added adhesive to both sides behind that brown piece, and it worked out perfectly. No one would even know that these were all different pieces put together. I'm just going to go ahead and put them at both ends of my card, and then I'm going to use some foam tape to put my focal panel on. You could use any kind of foam tape. You don't even have to use foam tape, but I've got a couple layers of cardstock there, so I always love to add a little foam tape, and who am I kidding? I love to add foam tape to pretty much every card. So once that's all done, I'm going to bring in some Stone Nuvo drops. If you haven't used these, they definitely have an interesting texture. They're not quite as shiny as other kinds of Nuvo drops, and they're a little bit gritty, but they're really interesting. So if you haven't tried them, you should check them out. But anyway, this is my card for today. Thank you so very much for joining me. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more and you're not already, please hit that subscribe button. But until next time, everyone, have a great day or night. Bye.